we're not leaving a penny to our kids.
And it's not even that we don't want to. Because here's the goal. My goal isn't to make my kids rich. It's to empower them to be free and limitless. Because listen, I can leave my kids $1 million or millions of dollars. I could leave them a family business, right? But how long is that going to last? No. Ooh, that's better, right, babe?
Yeah!
Yeah. She founded an architectural concrete company.
He founded a $100 million clothing company.
She took the world by storm as a social media star.
He took the world by storm as a famous serial entrepreneur.
Together we started a business.
And had babies.
Now we're figuring out the best ways to do both.
Join us as we learn from other entrepreneurs going through the same life struggles.
As they share their life hacks about success, love, kids,
and everything in between.
Give someone a fish and you feed them for a day. Teach someone how to fish and you feed them for a lifetime.
Welcome to this episode of the Pretty and Punk Podcast. My name is Dan Caldwell, and I'm here with my beautiful wife, Ildiko
Ferenczi.
And
you never know what you're going to get.
You have to do the accent.
Hey, I got to give a shout out to all my European brothers and sisters. They got to know. Ildiko Ferenczi. They got to know.
Okay, we got another great podcast for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. But before we jump into that, we just want to tell you how to find us in case you just stumbled upon our podcast. You can check us out. Well, all of it's in the show notes.
Yeah, just check below in the show notes, and you can just click right through to Instagram, YouTube, TikTok,
Facebook.
What else do we have? Facebook.
Yeah,
we have it all there. You'll find it.
Prepare all the handles.
Well, it's at the Pretty and Punk Podcast. Okay. That's where you're going to find us.
Though, right? The Pretty and Punk Podcast.
Most of them, unless we weren't able to lock it down. I'm not
you
sure.
You don't know either.
I'm not sure.
You were supposed to prepare that.
Listen, I'm human. Just like everybody else out there, we make mistakes and we're not always 100% on it. But it's in the show notes. Hi, baby.
And so, now you know how to find us. We have another great podcast for you. And really, it was just a quick discussion that we had a few minutes ago. And we said, you know what? This needs to be a podcast. And so we pushed the other podcast that we were going to do aside. And we said, let's talk about this because it's so important, I think.
It came up, yeah.
And that is, we're not leaving a penny to our kids.
No,
we're not going to do it.
We decided not to. And it's not even that we don't want to. Because here's the goal. My goal isn't to make my kids rich. It's to empower them to be free and limitless. Because listen, I can leave my kids $1 million or millions of dollars. I could leave them a family business, right? But how long is that going to last if they don't know how to run a business? If they don't know how to manage money? It's a proven fact. Look at the lottery winners. When you leave a large sum of money, it goes very
when they
quickly.
Don't earn it. When they don't earn it and you hand it over to them.
And they don't know how to handle it. They don't know. They're financially illiterate.
And they don't know how to make it. I mean, if they don't know how to make it, I mean, don't get us wrong. We're if something were to happen to us before they were adults, that they would be okay. But we want them to, they should be making that money before they even reach 18. The way we're planning their life now. I mean, Daniel was watching a video on ClickFunnels and how to create a website yesterday. We're like those. He's just at that point in his life where we want him understanding those things. He might not be able to build it tomorrow, but we want him to have an understanding of those things so he can start to create something for himself.
Right. And I feel like if you're an entitled parent, you're going to be raising entitled kids. And what's that going to do for them? Absolutely nothing that's beneficial. So when you include your kids in that journey where you're building something and you're creating something and you're teaching them, and we'll talk about it in a minute when the best times, or do you want to talk about?
No, I was just saying that's all what we're already doing. You know,
Right.
They already see us doing what we're doing.
From birth, right.
And we want them to have a clear picture of everything that we do.
We're very
so
transparent that way
they
in our
can
ups
do
and
it at some
downs
point.
in business. Because, listen, you can have millions of dollars. How many entrepreneurs, Dan, do we know that have had millions and millions of dollars and they lost it all in one shot? But they were resilient and they were brilliant in the way where they had been able to make a comeback. And that's the kind of lesson that I want to teach our children, to empower them and have the courage to see, listen, mom and dad made some mistakes here. They learned this lesson. I remember, for me personally, I remember my mom making some mistakes or struggling. She included me in the journey. She refused when she was so broke. She refused to do welfare food stamps, any of that stuff. She said no. And I remember her being so strict because her friend was like, oh, just do it. She's like, no, how am I supposed to raise these kids if I do that? But she did have wealthy friends. She always surrounded herself with the best people. And I remember there was this one opportunity where her friends came to her and said, listen, Etty, you take this money. Don't pay us back. And I remember her saying, I'm not going to take it. I'm going to pay you back. And they said, don't worry about it. You got babies. You're on your own. Just take it. We have plenty. And what I will always remember is that when she made it back, she gave them more back. And she was a very proud woman. I'm getting goosebumps, but this is the kind of example, I couldn't imagine. I've never had to borrow money, but could you imagine? Well, actually, that's not true. I have borrowed some money from my mom, but I paid it back and then I spoiled the crap out of her. I've taken her all over the world. And it's just like, she's done so much for me, but I'm talking about a stranger. I could not imagine, even if someone said, you keep it. I couldn't imagine actually keeping it. I would pay them back and give them back a bonus because they believed in me.
Of course.
And I want my kids to see that.
And we don't want our kids to feel entitled at all. What do you think? What about for destiny? Like, how do you see, typically you think of men or males being in charge of that idea that they have to, but maybe I should say what I feel. I feel like she should be.
Oh no, she needs to be
have a way
empowered.
to be independent and empowered,
exactly.
so that she brings.
Well,
I guess she brings something to the table. I mean, it was what I think attracted me to you when we got together. Daniel,
you give your sister a hug and a kiss right now. Okay, hug and a kiss.
See, this is what happens when.
And you can take that, but only if it's learning.
Have the kids
Do you understand?
And we want them to hear the podcast.
Only if it's learning.
We want them to hear us creating the podcast, but you just never know what's going to happen. So what do you see for Destiny? Because I have my own thoughts on what type of, what I want for her. Like, because, and maybe I should just say it. I'll just say, I want her to be empowered by, I want her to be an entrepreneur. I think that's what attracted me to you. You were so powerful when, I could still remember you walked in looking like $1 billion. Mm-hmm. And I had been following your company a little bit. So I knew a little bit about your concrete company. And I was just like, this girl doesn't need me. Like I want her, but she don't need me.
Yeah, that's
and
what I want.
I think that feeling is what I want for her.
Right.
I want her to feel like she doesn't need any dude that comes up and is trying to talk to her, trying to tell her lies or whatever, And I want her to be empowered.
That's right. I don't want no Dusty. what is it, Dusty? Hey, boy. Trying to impress her with Red Lobster. No, I want her to be so empowered
Red Lobster.
and so confident that she can run a business. But once she finds the one that she's going to marry, then if she wants, she can be a stay-at-home mom, or
Sell
she
it,
can
let it go,
or she can
run it
build,
with her husband.
I'd love to see her. I mean, this brings me joy.
Don't
is
bring home no
building-
loser. That's all I'm worried about.
It brings me joy building something with you. So I really hope that she's able to run it herself, do it herself, and then someday have the joy of sharing this experience with a loved one, and then also empowering her own children. But definitely, I want to raise a strong daughter that doesn't have to settle, that doesn't have to be so focused on locking someone down, or even be focused on, there's so many women in this modeling and acting world that I was exposed to. And I remember going in for my auditions and I didn't need the job. And that set me apart from everybody, where everybody else was desperate because that was their only thing. I always want her to have something in her back pocket. And
yeah, that makes her, it just gives her something walking through the door. And I
Right.
think, I mean, I can't be the only entrepreneur that wants I know people want different types of women. They want, one person might like someone more subdued and quiet, and I had that. But I like an empower. I like having an intelligent conversation with my wife. I like having conversations about our business and what we're doing. Those are fun to me, and
Yeah, I
I
like
enjoy
that.
those times. And I want her to have that. I want both of our kids to have that, or all of our kids to have that.
That's right.
And so I think that's important. And I'm glad that because we hadn't really spoken about her too much. We were always talking about Daniel a lot.
Right.
And I'm glad.
But she
we're seeing
falls
the same
into
way.
it. There's nothing ever, this is what I love, is that nothing is ever forced. It's just a conversation. And if she doesn't feel like memorizing a quote or doing anything business, we don't push it on them, but we encourage it. And I love that she's including herself. And I feel like that's where the empowering comes, when they want to lean into it themselves and educate themselves. And what are some of our good times to educate? Because we're teaching our kids financial literacy, and I think everybody should do that. They don't teach that in school.
Absolutely.
And they're not going to learn it from anyone else but their parents. They're not going to learn it in
school. And if we don't teach it to them by showing them, not just telling them, but showing them what we do, how to do it, and even bringing up things like, it's like I haven't really talked to Daniel about stocks too much. We have some different stocks, but it's not like I feel like I don't want to touch on that yet, but he's heard the words,
He understands investing and investing in your business, investing in real estate, because I have a good experience there. But I'm going to be honest, I don't have a lot of experience investing in the stock market. I don't.
Right. No, and you don't need to. I mean, you find your lane.
But we have people that understand it.
Have the right people.
Right. And then he can learn from them. Because sometimes if you're not, and I don't want to say that I'm always learning, and I'm always open to learning. I'm never going to say that I'm a professional in this, that, or the other. But I always want them to see that if I don't understand something, that I will not be ashamed or shy to go ask someone to learn everything I can about it. So,
and we want him to feel that way for sure. And I think, and we want him to find his own path. I mean, we show him all these things, but at the end of the day, we want him to find his own path, whatever that might be. If he decided to go be a doctor, then, so be it. We're not going to tell him not to be a doctor.
Right.
I might tell him how much a doctor makes, and it's not anywhere near what you could make.
Honestly, it's a hard job. It's emotionally taxing. Can you imagine losing your patients and just having that pressure on your soul? Like it's hard.
But I want him to love what he does.
Exactly.
Whatever it is, if he feels like that's what he would love, then, you know, I
Then
want him
we'll
to do it.
support him
I mean, he talks about
100%.
NASA. You know, he has this guy that he likes, Mark Rober, and who used to work for
No.
NASA. And we're trying to explain to him he's actually an entrepreneur now, but he did
But
work
I'm
for NASA at one
secretly
point.
trying to talk him out of that because
Yeah.
I don't want him to go live on the moon.
Yeah, he
I don't
wants
want
to
him
go to
be
Mars.
too far away from me.
But yeah, he's whatever it is. But I think it's I think we just really wanted to bring this to you guys because it's important. This type of financial literacy is important to at least talk about with your kids. And you know, when you get a chance to expose them to this stuff, you know, through what you're going through, whether you're an entrepreneur or not. There's always going to be a chance to talk money and savings and investing and at least give them that vocabulary so they understand the basics about, you know, what they should be learning in the future. Because I wasn't totally exposed to that, but I was a little bit when I saw my grandpa had a business, my grandfather, and my grandmother was a real estate investor.
And include them in all, right?
And
Yeah,
so I
your
heard those
grandmother.
words
That's
and
right.
I understood those things. You know, it wasn't like they were making tons of money, but they were, I understood what was going on there. I always understood my grandmother had owned a couple houses that she rented and an apartment building that she rented. And so I understood those things. And all of our kids, your kids, our kids should all have an understanding of that. And so we want to expose them to that as much as possible.
Because there's no point in, and sometimes even if you want to leave something behind, here's a very important point is that when you get older and you get to the end of your life, sometimes it becomes very expensive. And I remember my mom worrying because we never wanted to have her in a home. We wanted to keep her at home, but there was some major complications that she had where we had to have a special nurse in to help her with the things that she was going for. Now, when I was interviewing these nurses and the different agencies, it was from $15,000 to some of them are $50,000, you know,
A month.
But 15,000 was bi-weekly, and that was a great deal. So with what she had going on, and I remember her being kind of nervous, and I had to talk her through. I said, listen, you invested so much in all of us, your friends, your children. You made sure everybody started their own business. You taught us everything that we need to know. You spend it all, and let's travel. Let's do all the things that you want to do. This is your life. You worked hard. You put everything on the line. This is yours. You stay home. You're not going into a home, because she thought everything would change because she needed this help. She needed, I don't know if I want to expose it yet, but she was just she had to have a nurse with her all through because she couldn't change the things that needed to be changed because she has a very weak stomach, and her hands weren't strong enough to do the things that she needed to do. She didn't want me to do it because she's a very proud woman, but she said, I'll have a nurse do it. Okay. I'll do it.
I think we wanted her to go to zero. You know, spend your money on whatever makes you happy.
Yeah. You empowered all of us. She literally helped encouraged us to start businesses of our own, invest. She was there holding our hand through it all. So I want that for my kids. And guys, and you don't know what's going to happen at the end of your life. It could become very, very expensive, and it could eat up everything that you had planned. So
tell your kids they aren't getting anything. You're taking it all with you. You'll have it buried with you. That's my plan anyway.
You're such a pirate.
I'm going to have it buried with me. I'm taking it all.
Attila the Hun, here he is.
Exactly. I'm taking it with me. So if you guys have any stories about this or any ideas or comments, anything that we didn't bring up, be sure to put it in the comments. We'd love to hear from you guys. And as you know, if you've heard our podcast before, we share that with all of our kids, and they love hearing all the comments and quotes that you guys leave in the comments. And we appreciate that. And be sure to check us out at the Pretty Punk Podcast on Instagram and somewhere
All the
on
links
Facebook.
are in the show notes.
Yeah, just
down
look
below.
at the links in the show notes. I promise we're going to write those down so we can actually quote them exactly what they are. Do you have anything else?
No,
Okay.
I think that's great. Honestly, I feel so blessed to be here. You guys leave messages, not always on Spotify or Apple or whatever the platforms are. You guys message us directly, and I'm just so grateful that this makes me so happy to be able to spark a light or just help somebody out there. And it's crazy how a podcast can touch someone all the way across the world. And I'm just so grateful for that. And I'm so grateful for your support and your friendship. And any way I can help you guys, Dan and I, we're here for you. And we're so happy that you're a part of our community. God bless you guys. And I look forward to meeting with you next week.
See you guys next week.
Thank you for listening. I hope that changed your life. God bless. See you next time. Thanks for listening to the Pretty and Punk podcast. See you next week.